The second wave of alien forces descended upon Pine Ridge with a fury that shook the ground beneath their feet. Commander Vrax led the charge, his armored figure towering over his soldiers as they fanned out across the town. This time, there were no surprises, no shields to hide behind, no tricks to stall the inevitable confrontation. The humans stood ready, their enhanced abilities brimming just below the surface. Sarah, Jake, and Emily moved as one, flanking Ziller as they stepped into the open field where Vrax had landed. Behind them, the townspeople formed a loose line, armed with whatever tools and makeshift weapons they could gather. Though fear lingered in their eyes, it was tempered by resolve. They weren't the same people who had cowered in their homes days before. They were stronger now, united, and unyielding. Vrax surveyed the scene with cold disdain. "You think your little upgrades make a difference?" He sneered, his glowing gaze sweeping over the group. "This ends today." "It already has." Sarah shot back, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "You underestimated us once. Don't make the same mistake twice." Without warning, Vrax raised his hand, signaling his troops to attack. Energy beams sliced through the sky, forcing the humans to scatter. But this time, they moved with unnatural speed and precision. Jake dodged a blast effortlessly, closing the distance between himself and an alien soldier in seconds. With a swift kick, he knocked the weapon from the soldier's grasp, leaving him stunned. Emily darted between the chaos, using her heightened reflexes to weave through enemy lines. She hurled rocks and debris with surprising accuracy, disorienting the invaders. Meanwhile, Sarah worked alongside the townspeople, coordinating their movements like a seasoned leader. Together, they created openings for Ziller to strike with his own technology, disabling drones and targeting key areas of the enemy formation. Ziller fought with purpose, his actions deliberate and calculated. He knew the humans' newfound strength wouldn't be enough on its own. They needed strategy, teamwork, and trust, and that's exactly what they gave him. Each person played their part, covering for one another and exploiting weaknesses in the aliens' defenses. As the battle raged on, Vrax grew increasingly frustrated. His soldiers, trained for efficiency and order, struggled to adapt to the unpredictable tactics of their opponents. For every step forward they took, the humans pushed them back twice as hard. Finally, unable to contain his anger, Vrax charged directly at Ziller, energy crackling around his fists. "You've betrayed your kind," Vrax roared, swinging violently. Ziller ducked, narrowly avoiding the blow, but the force of the impact sent shockwaves rippling through the ground. "I'm protecting my future," Ziller replied calmly, countering with a pulse from his bioscanner. The beam struck Vrax's chest, staggering him momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah and Jake rushed in, tackling the commander to the ground. Though Vrax was far stronger than either of them, their combined strength, even against his advanced armor, was enough to hold him down. "Stand down," Sarah demanded, pressing a makeshift device against Vrax's helmet. It sparked faintly, emitting a low-frequency pulse designed to disrupt alien systems. Vrax let out a guttural growl as his suit malfunctioned, immobilizing him. With their leader incapacitated, the remaining soldiers began to retreat, fleeing into the forest or retreating to their ships. One by one, the vessels rose into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. The battle was over. As silence settled over Pine Ridge, the townspeople gathered around Ziller and the others, cheering and embracing one another. Exhaustion mingled with relief as they realized they had won, not just the fight, but a new understanding of themselves. Ziller looked at the faces of those who had fought beside him, pride swelling in his chest. "You've proven something extraordinary today," he said softly. "Strength isn't about power or technology. It's about connection. About standing together when it matters most." Sarah smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We couldn't have done it without you, Ziller. You're part of this now. Part of us." For the first time, Ziller felt truly at home, not as an outsider studying humanity, but as someone who belonged among them. As dawn broke over Pine Ridge, casting light on a battered but hopeful town, he knew their journey was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Together, they had become something greater than either species could have imagined alone. As the sun rose over Pine Ridge, casting golden light across the battered town, Xyler stood at the edge of the forest, watching the humans tend to their wounded and repair the damage left by the battle. The air was heavy with exhaustion, but there was also a sense of triumph, a shared understanding that they had faced an impossible enemy and survived. Still, Xyler couldn't shake the feeling that this was only a brief reprieve. Vrax would not give up so easily. Sarah approached him, her hands still smeared with dirt and grease from the fight. "We did it," she said softly, though her tone carried more relief than celebration. "For now, anyway." "For now," Xyler echoed, his voice low. "But this isn't over. Vrax will return, and next time, he'll come prepared for resistance." Sarah frowned, crossing her arms. "Then we need to be ready too. We can't keep relying on tricks and luck." Xyler nodded, turning to face her fully. "You're right. But preparation means more than just training or building better traps. It means understanding what makes you unique and using it to your advantage." He gestured toward the townspeople, who were already working together to clear debris and care for one another. Some tended to injuries, while others fortified homes and set up makeshift defenses. Their coordination was imperfect, but it was effective. "Your strength lies in your unity," Xyler continued. "But there's something else, something I've been studying since I arrived here. Your rapid healing, your adaptability. It's not random. There's a pattern, a potential within your biology that could change everything." Emily joined them, holding the bioscanner tightly. "You mean, we can do more? Like Jake did with the amplifier?" "Exactly," Xyler replied. "But instead of temporary enhancements, we need to unlock what's already inside you. If we can amplify your natural abilities permanently, or even spread them to others, we might stand a real chance against Vrax and his forces." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Permanently? That sounds risky." "It is," Xyler admitted. "But it's also necessary. I've analyzed enough data to know it's possible. The question is whether you're willing to take the risk." The three of them fell silent, weighing the choice. Finally, Emily spoke up. "If it means protecting everyone here, I'm in. We can't keep running or hiding forever." Jake appeared moments later, his shoulder bandaged, but his expression determined. "Count me in too, whatever it takes." With the group's agreement, Xyler led them back to his cloaked vessel hidden deep in the woods. Inside, he revealed a larger version of the amplifier, a device capable of altering biology on a broader scale. "This machine can rewrite cellular patterns," he explained. "It won't just speed up healing. It will strengthen your immune systems, sharpen your reflexes, and enhance your endurance. But once activated, the changes will be irreversible." The weight of his words hung in the air. After a long pause, Sarah nodded. "Do it, all of us." Xyler hesitated, searching their faces for any sign of doubt. Seeing none, he activated the machine. A soft hum filled the space as tendrils of blue light enveloped each of them. They closed their eyes, feeling warmth spread through their bodies. Not painful, but intense, like every cell was waking up for the first time. When the process ended, they opened their eyes, blinking in the dim light. Sarah flexed her fingers, surprised by how steady they felt. Jake grinned, testing his balance by jumping lightly into the air. Even Emily noticed a newfound clarity in her thoughts, as if her mind worked faster than before. "You feel it, don't you?" Xyler asked, watching them closely. "Your bodies are adapting. You're stronger now, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally." Sarah smiled faintly, meeting his gaze. "Thank you, Xyler, for believing in us." Before anyone could say more, a sudden vibration shook the ground outside. Xyler's scanners lit up, detecting movement in the distance. "They're back," he said grimly. "And they're bringing reinforcements." The group exchanged determined looks. This time, they wouldn't rely on shields or traps. With their newfound abilities, they would face Vrax head-on, not as ordinary humans, but as something greater. As they stepped out of the vessel, ready to defend their home, Xyler felt a flicker of hope. Together, they might just have a fighting chance. The calm before the storm didn't last long. On the fifth night after Vrax's retreat, Xyler detected a faint vibration in the air, a low hum that only his sensitive hearing could pick up. He rushed to the edge of the forest, his bioscanner in hand, and confirmed his worst fear. Multiple alien ships were approaching Pine Ridge. This time, they weren't alone. Vrax had returned with reinforcements, and they were ready for war. Xyler sprinted back to the diner, where Sarah, Jake, and Emily were waiting. "They're here," he said urgently, his voice tight with tension. "More ships, more soldiers. We don't have much time." Sarah stood quickly, her face pale but resolute. "What's the plan?" "We fight," Jake said firmly, cracking his knuckles. The temporary enhancements from the amplifier had worn off, but the training they'd undergone gave him confidence. "We've practiced for this." Xyler hesitated. "You're brave, but bravery won't be enough. Their weapons are advanced, far beyond anything we can counter directly. If we engage them head-on, we'll lose." "Then what do you suggest?" Emily asked, clutching the bioscanner tightly. "Hide. Run." "No," Xyler replied. His eyes narrowed as an idea formed. "We use the terrain. The forest, the hills. It's unfamiliar to them. They rely on technology, not instinct. We can outmaneuver them." Sarah nodded, catching on. "We split into teams. Some of us distract them while others set traps or find weak points in their defenses. It's risky," Xyler warned, "but it might work. I'll lead one group. You take the other." Jake stepped forward. "I'm with you, Xyler. Let's show them what humans are made of." Emily hesitated but then nodded. "And I'll stay with Sarah. We'll handle the distractions." With no time to waste, the group divided. Xyler, Jake, and a few trusted townspeople moved deeper into the woods, setting up makeshift barriers and rigging fallen branches to create tripwires. Meanwhile, Sarah and Emily led another team toward the outskirts of town, using flares and loud noises to draw the aliens' attention. As the first wave of soldiers descended, chaos erupted. Bright beams of energy lit up the night sky as the aliens fired indiscriminately, searching for targets. Sarah and her group darted between buildings, shouting and throwing objects to keep the invaders off balance. The ruse worked. The soldiers followed the noise, leaving gaps in their formation. In the forest, Xyler and Jake waited patiently. When the moment was right, they sprang their trap. A series of rigged logs tumbled down a hill, knocking several soldiers off their feet. The aliens scrambled to recover, but Xyler's team was already moving, striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could retaliate. Despite their efforts, the battle was far from easy. The aliens' weapons cut through trees like paper, forcing Xyler and his group to constantly change positions. Jake took a glancing blow to his shoulder, wincing in pain but refusing to slow down. "Keep going," he shouted, urging the others forward. Back in town, Sarah and Emily faced their own challenges. One soldier cornered them near the diner, raising his weapon menacingly. Just as he prepared to fire, Emily threw a flare directly at his visor, blinding him temporarily. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah grabbed a wrench from her belt and struck the soldier's arm, causing him to drop his weapon. "We make a good team," Emily said breathlessly as they ran for cover. Sarah grinned despite the danger. "Told you we'd hold our own." As the fight dragged on, Xyler realized they couldn't keep this up forever. The aliens were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. But then something unexpected happened. The townspeople who had been hiding began emerging from their homes, armed with whatever they could find: baseball bats, shovels, even pots and pans. They joined the fray, rallying behind Sarah and her group with surprising ferocity. Seeing this display of unity, Xylar felt a surge of pride. Humans truly were stronger together. Even without advanced technology, their courage and determination turned the tide of the battle. Slowly but surely, the aliens began to fall back, confused and outnumbered. When the dust settled, the survivors gathered in the center of town, exhausted but alive. Xylar looked around at the faces of those who had fought alongside him. Ordinary people who had risen to the occasion. For the first time, he understood why humanity had survived for so long. It wasn't just their resilience, it was their ability to come together when it mattered most. But as dawn broke over Pine Ridge, Xylar knew the victory was fleeting. Vrax would return, angrier and more dangerous than ever. And when he did, they would need more than clever tactics and makeshift weapons to survive. The days following the confrontation with Commander Vrax were tense but quiet. Pine Ridge seemed to return to its usual rhythm, though the townspeople couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary had happened and might happen again. Xylar remained in the shadows, monitoring the skies for any sign of Vrax's return. He knew the reprieve was temporary. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment, and when they did, the humans would need more than just a shield to protect them. Sarah, Jake, and Emily became his unofficial allies, meeting him secretly in the woods each night to discuss their next steps. They weren't soldiers or strategists, but they were determined to help in any way they could. "We need a plan," Sarah said one evening, pacing back and forth. "If those ships come back, we can't rely on luck to save us." "I agree," Xylar replied, his voice calm but serious. "But we also can't fight them head-on. Their technology is far superior to anything humans have." "Then what do you suggest?" Jake asked, leaning forward. "We can't just sit around waiting for them to attack." Xylar hesitated, considering his options. Then an idea began to form. "There may be a way to use your strengths against them," he said slowly. "Your rapid healing. It's not just physical. It's a sign of adaptability, resilience. If we can harness that, amplify it somehow, it might give us an edge." Emily frowned, holding up the bioscanner. "You mean, modify ourselves? Make us stronger?" "In a sense, yes," Xylar explained. "But it's risky. I don't fully understand how your biology works yet. Pushing it too far could cause harm." Sarah crossed her arms, thinking. "It's still better than sitting ducks. What do we need to make this work?" Xylar pulled out a small device from his suit, a portable amplifier he'd been working on. "This will enhance the regenerative properties of your cells temporarily, but it needs testing first. Someone will have to volunteer." For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. Finally, Jake stood up. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "You saved my arm before, Xylar. Let me help now." Xylar nodded, though concern flickered in his eyes. "Very well, but we proceed carefully." They moved to a secluded clearing deep in the forest, away from prying eyes. Xylar adjusted the settings on the amplifier, explaining the process step by step. "This won't hurt," he assured Jake, "but you may feel different afterward. Stronger, faster. Your body will push itself beyond its limits." Jake took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's do it." As Xylar activated the device, a soft hum filled the air. A faint blue light enveloped Jake, pulsing steadily as the amplifier worked. At first, nothing seemed to change. Then Jake gasped, clutching his chest as warmth spread through his body. His muscles tensed, then relaxed, feeling lighter yet more powerful. "How do you feel?" Sarah asked, watching him closely. I feel amazing," Jake replied, flexing his arms experimentally, "like I could run forever." To test the effects, Xylar handed him a heavy log lying nearby. "Try lifting that." Without hesitation, Jake grabbed the log and lifted it effortlessly, grinning as if it weighed nothing. "Whoa, this is incredible." "It's working," Xylar murmured, relief washing over him. "But remember, this is temporary. The effects will fade after a few hours. and pushing yourself too hard could exhaust your body. "We'll be careful," Sarah promised. "In the meantime, we can train. Teach us how to use this strength wisely." Over the next few days, the group practiced in secret, learning to control their newfound abilities. Emily discovered she could heal minor cuts almost instantly, while Sarah found her stamina increased dramatically. Even Ziller joined in, teaching them basic combat techniques and strategies to outmaneuver their opponents. But as they prepared, Ziller couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Each night, he scanned the horizon, searching for signs of Vrax's fleet. When the inevitable attack came, they would need more than strength. They would need unity. Humans, he realized, thrive not because of their individual powers, but because of their connections to one another. One evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Ziller stood beside Sarah, watching the others practice. "You've all come so far," he said quietly. "I never imagined humans could adapt so quickly." Sarah smiled faintly. "Neither did we. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we're stronger together than anyone expects, including them." Ziller nodded, hope flickering in his chest. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt a sense of belonging, not as an outsider studying humanity, but as someone who had become part of their story. Ziller stood his ground, facing Commander Vrax with a mix of fear and determination. The air crackled with tension as the two aliens locked eyes, or rather, Ziller's wide, oval-shaped orbs met Vrax's cold, glowing gaze. Between them, the shimmering energy barrier hummed softly, holding back the human's pursuer for now. But Ziller knew it wouldn't last long against someone like Vrax. "You've made a grave mistake," Vrax said, his voice low and menacing. "Interfering with inferior species is not just a breach of protocol. It's an act of defiance. Do you truly believe these fragile creatures are worth risking everything for?" "They're not inferior," Ziller shot back, his tone firm despite the tremor in his voice. "You haven't seen what I've seen. Their resilience, their adaptability, it's remarkable. They have potential, Vrax. Potential we could learn from." Vrax sneered, taking a step closer to the barrier. "Potential? They're primitives clinging to survival on a dying planet. Your sentimental attachment clouds your judgment." "It's not sentiment," Ziller insisted. "It's science. Look at the data, their healing rates, their ability to recover from injuries that would cripple others. It defies logic. If we destroy them without understanding why they're different, we'll lose something invaluable." For a moment, Vrax seemed to consider this. His expression softened faintly, almost imperceptibly. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he slammed his fist into the shield, sending ripples across its surface. The barrier wavered but held. Ziller winced, knowing it wouldn't withstand another direct hit. "Enough talk," Vrax growled. "Your interference ends tonight." As Vrax prepared to strike again, Ziller acted quickly. He reached into his suit and pulled out a small device, a prototype weapon designed to disrupt alien technology. It was risky, untested even, but it was all he had. With a flick of his wrist, he activated the gadget, aiming it directly at Vrax. A pulse of energy surged outward, striking the commander and causing his armor to spark violently. Vrax staggered backward, momentarily stunned. What did you do?" he demanded, shaking off the effects. "I disabled your weapon systems," Ziller replied, buying time as the shield flickered behind him. "Leave now, Vrax. Don't make me use this again." Vrax glared at him, his frustration boiling over. "You think this changes anything? Reinforcements are already en route. You can't protect them forever." Before Ziller could respond, a loud rumble echoed through the forest. The ground shook slightly as a massive shadow descended overhead. Another alien vessel, larger than any Ziller had seen before. Vrax smirked, regaining his composure. "It seems your time is up." Desperation gripped Ziller as he realized the situation was spiraling out of control. He couldn't fight off an entire fleet alone. But then, a thought struck him. One final gamble. Turning toward the diner where Sarah and the others had taken refuge, he shouted, "Sarah, activate the main shield generator." Inside the diner, Sarah heard Ziller's voice clearly despite the chaos outside. She glanced at Jake and Emily, who were huddled near the windows, watching the second ship hover ominously above the trees. "What does he mean?" Emily asked nervously. "The shield. He wants us to strengthen it," Sarah explained, grabbing the bioscanner. She fiddled with the settings, trying to amplify its power. The device buzzed loudly, straining under the increased output. Outside, the shimmering barrier around the town brightened, expanding until it covered the entire area. Vrax looked up sharply, noticing the change. "No," he barked, realizing too late what Ziller had done. The reinforced shield enveloped both ships, trapping them within its boundaries. For the first time, uncertainty flashed across Vrax's face. "You wanted proof of human ingenuity," Ziller said, stepping closer. "There it is. Working together, we adapted. We found a way to protect ourselves. And them." Vrax clenched his fists, seething with anger. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Mark my words, Ziller. When I return, there will be consequences." With that, the commander signaled his crew to retreat. The ships rose higher, disappearing into the night sky, leaving behind only silence. Exhausted but relieved, Ziller sank to his knees, breathing heavily. Behind him, Sarah, Jake, and Emily emerged from the diner, their faces filled with awe and gratitude. "You did it," Sarah said softly, offering him a hand. "We couldn't have done it without you." Ziller accepted her help, standing slowly. "No," he corrected her. "We did it together. That's what makes humanity special. You don't give up, even when the odds are against you." As dawn broke over Pine Ridge, a fragile peace settled over the town. But Ziller knew this was only the beginning. Whatever came next, he was ready to face it, with or without allies from beyond the stars. The trio reached the edge of the forest just in time to see Ziller dodging another attack from the drones. Sarah quickly grabbed a fallen branch and hurled it at the nearest machine, striking its sensor array. The drone wobbled, giving Ziller a chance to disable it with his own device. He turned, surprised to see the humans joining the fight. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his tone sharp with worry. "It's not safe." "We're not leaving you to handle this alone," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Ziller hesitated, torn between gratitude and frustration. Before he could argue further, a deep, commanding voice echoed through the night. "Enough of this." From the tree line emerged Commander Vrax, his armored figure towering over the group. His eyes glowed faintly, scanning each of them with cold precision. "You've violated protocol, Ziller," Vrax said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Interfering with primitive species is forbidden. Yet here you are, tampering with their biology and involving yourself in their affairs." "They're not primitive," Ziller snapped, stepping forward. "You don't understand what they're capable of. Their resilience, it's extraordinary. If we work with them, we cooled." "Silence," Vrax barked, raising a hand. A wave of energy surged outward, knocking Ziller off his feet. Sarah gasped, rushing to his side while Jake and Emily stood frozen in shock. Vrax turned his gaze to the humans, his expression unreadable. "Your kind may possess unusual traits, but that only makes you more dangerous. My orders are clear. Eliminate all threats to our mission." Jake clenched his fists, anger overriding fear. "We didn't ask for any of this. You can't just decide we're a threat." To everyone's surprise, Vrax paused, considering the boy's words. For a brief moment, doubt flickered in his eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Perhaps not," he admitted, "but your existence complicates matters, and complications must be resolved." Before Vrax could act, Ziller regained his footing. With a swift motion, He activated a secondary shield generator, creating a barrier between the humans and the commander. "Run," he shouted to Sarah and the others. "Get back to the diner and reinforce the main shield. I'll hold him off." Sarah hesitated, torn between obeying and staying to help. Finally, she nodded, grabbing Jake and Emily's arms. "Come on," she urged, pulling them away. As they disappeared into the darkness, Zeller faced Vrax alone, his resolve hardening. Whatever happened next, he would protect these humans, even if it cost him everything. The night grew darker as Vrax's drones circled Pine Ridge, their glowing sensors cutting through the shadows like searchlights. Zeller crouched behind a cluster of trees, his heart pounding, or rather, the equivalent organ in his chest thudding with urgency. The shield he'd erected around the town was holding for now, but it wouldn't last forever. Already, the faint shimmer of energy flickered under the strain of the drone's probing beams. Sarah and a handful of townspeople had taken refuge in the diner, using it as a makeshift command center. Jake Monroe paced anxiously near the window, peeking out every few seconds to check for movement. Emily Carter sat at a table with Sarah, clutching the bioscanner Zeller had given her earlier. She stared at the readings, still struggling to believe what she was seeing. This can't be real," she muttered, shaking her head. "It is real," Sarah said firmly, though her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. "And right now, we need to focus on staying alive." Outside, Zeller monitored the situation closely. He knew Vrax wouldn't waste time trying to break through the shield indefinitely. Sooner or later, the commander would send reinforcements, or worse, come himself. Zeller activated his communicator, sending a coded signal to disable one of the drones temporarily. It sputtered mid-flight, crashing into the forest with a loud thud. The other drones paused, recalibrating their search patterns. "Gotcha," Zeller whispered under his breath. But his small victory was short-lived. Moments later, a second drone locked onto his position, its red light flashing menacingly. Zeller ducked just in time as a burst of energy shot past him, scorching the ground where he'd been standing. He scrambled to his feet, retreating deeper into the woods. Back at the diner, Sarah noticed the commotion outside. "Something's happening," she said, grabbing a flashlight. "We need to help him." "No way," Jake protested. "He told us to stay put. That's what we should do. And let him fight alone." Sarah shot back. "He saved you, Jake. And me too, probably. We owe him." Reluctantly, Jake nodded. Together, they slipped out the back door, heading toward the source of the disturbance. Along the way, they spotted Emily trailing behind them. "I'm coming too," she insisted when they tried to send her back. "If Zeller's risking his life for us, I'm not sitting this out." Zeller knew he couldn't face Commander Vrax alone. The alien leader was not just a soldier but a strategist, someone who thrived on control and order. If Vrax discovered that humans possessed the ability to heal faster than expected, and worse, that Zeller had been experimenting with them, it could spell disaster for both species. Zeller's mission was supposed to be covered, a quiet study of Earth's inhabitants. But now his actions had drawn attention, and he needed help. He turned to Sarah Bennett, the mechanic who had noticed him lurking near her garage days earlier. Though she barely knew him, she seemed sharp-witted and resourceful, qualities Zeller admired in humans. Late one evening, he approached her as she worked on an old pickup truck outside her shop. Her hands were smeared with grease, but her eyes narrowed the moment she saw him. "You again," she said, setting down her wrench. "What do you want?" "I need your help," Zeller replied, keeping his voice low. He glanced around nervously, ensuring no one else was nearby. Sarah crossed her arms. "Help with what? You still haven't told me who you are or why you're sneaking around town." Zeller hesitated. Trusting her meant risking everything, but he had no other choice. "I'm not from here," he admitted finally. "I came to learn about humans, to study you. But something unusual is happening in Pine Ridge, something important." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" "Your bodies. They heal faster than they should. Faster than any species I've ever seen." Xylar paused, searching her face for a reaction. "And now, others have arrived. People like me, but not like me. They don't care about understanding you. They'll see your abilities as a threat." Sarah stared at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, Xylar feared she wouldn't believe him. Then she sighed, rubbing her temples. "This has got to be some kind of prank, right? Aliens studying us. Threats from space. Come on." "It's true," Xylar insisted. "Look at this." He pulled out his bioscanner and showed her the data he'd collected, the rapid healing rates, the anomalies in human biology. Sarah leaned closer, squinting at the screen. Despite her skepticism, curiosity flickered in her eyes. "Okay, say I believe you," she said slowly. "What exactly do you expect me to do about it?" "I need you to warn the townspeople," Xylar explained. "Tell them to stay indoors, especially after dark. These newcomers, they won't hesitate to harm anyone who gets in their way." Sarah frowned. "You're asking me to scare people based on some wild story. Even if I wanted to, they'd think I'm crazy." "Then show them proof," Xylar urged. "Use my scanner. Let them see what I've seen. Please, Sarah, I can't protect everyone by myself." After a long silence, Sarah nodded reluctantly. "Fine. But if this turns out to be some elaborate hoax, I'm calling the cops." Relieved, Xylar handed her the device and gave her a brief tutorial on how to use it. As she headed toward town, he retreated into the shadows, preparing for the worst. He knew Vrax wouldn't wait long before making his move. Later that night, Xylar positioned himself near the edge of the forest, watching as Sarah spoke to a group of locals gathered outside the diner. At first, they looked skeptical, laughing off her warnings. But when she demonstrated the scanner, showing them real-time readings of their own accelerated healing processes, the mood shifted. Whispers spread through the crowd, followed by murmurs of concern. Meanwhile, Xylar detected movement in the distance. Vrax's drones were closing in, scanning the area for signs of life. Time was running out. Xylar activated a temporary shield generator hidden in his suit, creating a faint shimmering barrier around the town. It wouldn't hold forever, but it might buy them enough time to prepare. As the townspeople scrambled to secure their homes, Jake Monroe approached Xylar cautiously. The boy had seen him before, the night he'd healed his arm, and now recognized him despite the hood. "You're the one who helped me, aren't you?" Jake asked. Xylar nodded. "Stay safe, Jake, and trust Sarah. She'll know what to do." Jake hesitated, then ran back to join the others. Watching him go, Xylar felt a pang of hope. Humans weren't just resilient, they were brave. Together, maybe they stood a chance against whatever Vrax had planned. But as the hum of alien machinery grew louder, Xylar braced himself for the battle ahead. Xylar spent the next several days blending into the quiet rhythm of Pine Ridge, careful to avoid drawing too much attention. He had begun visiting the town more often, always keeping his hood pulled low over his face and moving with deliberate caution. The humans were curious creatures, quick to notice anything unusual but equally quick to dismiss it if they couldn't find an explanation. Xylar relied on this trait as he observed them from the edges of their lives. During one of his visits, he found himself at a small diner on the outskirts of town. It was a cozy place with checkered floors and faded posters of local events taped to the walls. Sarah Bennett sat at the counter, sipping coffee while chatting with the waitress. Xylar hesitated outside before finally stepping in, pulling up a stool at the far end of the counter. He ordered nothing, simply sitting there and listening. The conversation turned to injuries, a topic that piqued Xylar's interest immediately. "You wouldn't believe how fast my nephew healed after breaking his wrist last year," Sarah said, shaking her head. "Doctor said it should have taken weeks, but he was back to playing baseball in less than half that time." The waitress chuckled. "Kids bounce back quick. They're tougher than we give them credit for." "Not just kids," Sarah replied thoughtfully. I've seen grown-ups recover from stuff you'd think would knock them flat for months. Like old Mr. Henderson down the street. He fell off his roof last winter. Broke ribs, sprained his ankle, the whole 9 yards. Doctor said he'd need crutches till spring, but by February, he was out shoveling snow like nothing happened. Zeller leaned slightly closer, absorbing every word. These stories aligned perfectly with what he'd observed. And yet, they contradicted everything his species believed about human biology. Was resilience like this common among all humans? Or was Pine Ridge somehow special? After leaving the diner, Zeller decided to test his theory further. That evening, he followed a jogger named Emily Carter, the same woman whose leg he'd healed days earlier, as she ran along a wooded trail. She stopped suddenly, wincing as she massaged her calf. A muscle strain, perhaps, or maybe a minor tear. Zylar activated his bioscanner discreetly, analyzing the injury without intervening this time. To his astonishment, the damage repaired itself within hours, far faster than any non-human species he'd studied. No external aid, no advanced technology. Just the human body doing what it seemed naturally designed to do. Zylar felt a mix of awe and unease. If humanity harbored such potential, why hadn't it been documented before? And what did it mean for the future of both their species? His thoughts were interrupted when a sudden flash of light lit up the night sky. Zeller froze, recognizing the signature energy pulse of another alien vessel. This wasn't part of his mission. Someone else was here. His heart raced, or rather, the equivalent organ in his chest thudded rapidly. As he realized the implications, visitors from his homeworld rarely came to Earth unless something had gone terribly wrong. Slipping deeper into the shadows, Zylar watched as the ship descended silently beyond the tree line. Whoever they weren't broadcasting friendly intentions. He knew then that his presence in Pine Ridge might already be compromised. But retreating wasn't an option, not when he was so close to understanding humanity's hidden strength. Over the next few hours, Zeller monitored the newcomers carefully. They moved with precision, scanning the area methodically. Their leader, a tall figure clad in dark armor, radiated authority and danger. Zylar recognized him instantly. Commander Vrax, a ruthless enforcer known for prioritizing protocol above all else. If Vrax discovered what Zeller had been doing, there would be consequences, not just for him, but for the people of Pine Ridge. By dawn, Zeller had made his decision. He would stay and protect the humans who had unknowingly become part of his mission. Whatever secrets lay within their biology, they deserved to be understood, not exploited. As sunlight filtered through the trees, Zylar tightened the straps on his regenerator and prepared for what lay ahead. Pine Ridge was no longer just a research site. It was home to a mystery worth defending. The next few days passed quietly for Zeller as he mulled over the strange data from his encounter with the young woman. He couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was happening beneath the surface of human biology. Determined to uncover more, he decided to venture further into Pine Ridge, a small town nestled at the edge of the forest. If humans truly possessed some hidden ability to heal faster than expected, he needed to observe it firsthand. One afternoon, while exploring the outskirts of the town, Zylar stumbled upon a group of teenagers playing near a rocky riverbank. They laughed and shouted, their voices echoing through the trees. Among them was a boy named Jake Monroe, tall and lanky with messy brown hair. Jake seemed particularly adventurous, clambering up the jagged rocks with ease. Zylar watched from a distance, his bioscanner running silently in his hand. Suddenly, there was a loud crack. One of the rocks gave way under Jake's weight, sending him tumbling down the slope. His arm twisted unnaturally as he landed hard on the ground below. The other teens rushed to his side, calling out his name. Jake groaned in pain, clutching his forearm. Blood trickled from a shallow cut on his elbow, but Ziller's scanner confirmed the real damage, a fractured radius. This was another chance, another opportunity to study human healing up close. Zeller hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Keeping his movements slow and deliberate, he approached the group. "Stay back," one of the teens warned, holding up a hand defensively. Xylar ignored the comment and knelt beside Jake, activating his regenerator once again. The blue light enveloped Jake's arm, pulsing gently as the device worked its magic. This time, Xylar paid close attention to every detail, recording not just the physical changes, but also any anomalies in the healing process. Within moments, the swelling disappeared, and the bone realigned itself seamlessly. Jake blinked, staring at his arm in disbelief. "What? How did you do that?" he stammered, looking up at Xylar. Xylar didn't answer. Instead, he stood abruptly and retreated into the woods, leaving the teenagers to marvel at what had just happened. Back inside his vessel, he reviewed the new data with growing unease. Just like before, the human body had responded faster than anticipated, even after his intervention. It was as though the regenerator had awakened something dormant within Jake's cells, accelerating the natural recovery process. Curiosity gnawed at Xylar. What if this wasn't an isolated incident? Could all humans share this latent ability? And if so, why hadn't his species detected it during previous studies of Earth? These questions swirled in his mind as he continued to monitor the town from afar. Over the next few days, Xylar noticed subtle signs of resilience everywhere. A construction worker who dropped a heavy beam on his foot walked it off without so much as a limp. An elderly woman gardening in her backyard shrugged off a nasty scrape that should have left her bleeding for hours. Each observation deepened the mystery, fueling Xylar's determination to understand. But his presence in Pine Ridge wasn't entirely unnoticed. Sarah Bennett, a local mechanic known for fixing cars with remarkable skill, spotted him lurking near her garage late one evening. She frowned, squinting into the shadows where Xylar stood concealed. "Hey, is someone there?" she called out, wiping grease-stained hands on her overalls. Xylar froze, debating whether to reveal himself or retreat. Curiosity won out. Slowly, he stepped into view, careful to keep his alien features obscured beneath his hood. "I mean no harm," he said softly, his voice distorted by a translation device built into his suit. Sarah crossed her arms, skeptical but intrigued. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" He hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Finally, he settled on a partial truth. "I'm a traveler. I've come to learn about your people." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Well, you picked an odd place to start. Most folks around here don't take kindly to strangers poking around." "I'll be cautious," Xylar replied, backing away slightly. "Thank you for the warning." As he disappeared into the night, Sarah shook her head, muttering to herself. Something about the stranger felt off, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Meanwhile, Xylar returned to his ship, more determined than ever to unravel the secrets of humanity. Little did he know, his experiments were about to attract unwanted attention and force him to make choices that could alter the fate of both species forever. Xylar moved silently through the dense forest, his sleek silver suit blending perfectly with the moonlit shadows. The air was cool and damp, carrying the earthy scent of pine needles and moss. He had been observing this planet for weeks now, studying its strange inhabitants from afar. Humans were fascinating creatures, fragile yet surprisingly resilient. His mission was simple: gather data without making contact. But tonight, things would change. The sound of snapping twigs caught his attention. Xylar froze, his large, oval-shaped eyes scanning the darkness. Through the trees, he spotted a figure riding a bicycle along a narrow dirt path. It was a young woman, her long blonde hair tied back in a loose ponytail. She wore a light jacket and jeans, humming softly to herself as she pedaled. Xylar activated his bioscanner, curious about her vitals. Everything seemed normal, until the unexpected happened. A sharp turn on the uneven trail caused the bike's front wheel to catch on a root. The woman let out a startled cry as she tumbled forward, crashing hard onto the ground. Her leg twisted awkwardly beneath her, and a sharp crack echoed through the quiet night. Xylar winced involuntarily. Even from where he stood, he could see the unnatural angle of her leg. A broken bone, no doubt. For a moment, Ziller hesitated. Protocol dictated that he remain unseen, untouched by human affairs. Yet something stirred within him, a mix of curiosity and concern. This was an opportunity to test his portable regenerator, a device capable of repairing tissue at a molecular level. If he acted quickly, she might never know what or who had helped her. Cautiously, Zillar approached. The woman, clutching her leg, groaned in pain. Her breathing was shallow, and tears streamed down her face. "Help," she whispered weakly into the empty night. Ziller crouched beside her, careful to keep his elongated limbs hidden under his cloak-like garment. With trembling hands, he adjusted the settings on the regenerator, ensuring it would leave no trace of alien interference. As the device hummed softly, a faint blue light enveloped her injured leg. Ziller watched intently, his scanners analyzing every detail of the healing process. Within seconds, the swelling began to subside, and the fractured bone fused back together. The woman blinked, confusion replacing the agony in her expression. Slowly, she sat up, inspecting her leg. There was no bruising, no sign of injury at all. "What?" she murmured, looking around. Her gaze landed on Zillar, though she couldn't make out his features in the dim light. "Who are you?" Zillar said nothing. Instead, he stepped back into the shadows, disappearing before she could ask another question. As he retreated deeper into the forest, he glanced over his shoulder to see her standing cautiously, testing her weight on the once broken leg. She looked bewildered but unharmed. Satisfied, Zillar returned to his cloaked vessel, parked among the thick foliage. Back inside, he reviewed the data collected during the procedure. Everything had gone smoothly. At least, that's what he thought at first. Then he noticed something unusual. According to his readings, the woman's bone tissue had begun regenerating even faster than expected after his intervention. It didn't make sense. Humans weren't supposed to heal like this. Frowning, Zillar replayed the scan multiple times, searching for errors in his equipment. But the results remained consistent. Could it be possible? Were humans more advanced biologically than his species had assumed? Or had his device somehow triggered an unforeseen reaction? Either way, one thing was clear. This discovery warranted further investigation. And so, as dawn broke over Pine Ridge, Zillar resolved to stay longer than planned. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about humanity and himself.